every time you onboard someone, you lose money. HR exists to prevent loss of money, right? Because people cost money. So engagement is an obvious play because you've got to keep your people on board to get the result. If you've got a leaky boat, if you're just bringing them on and they keep losing, if your retention rate is low, you're losing money very quickly. Who do you want to attract to your team? Who are the people that are going to make it better? What are their behaviours? What do they do in their job? How do you promote that behaviour time in, time out? You kind of joke about having a clone machine. I wish I could clone you. Yeah, you have a clone machine. It's called a good culture strategy.
In today's episode, we sit down with Chloe Norris. Chloe works as Head of People and Culture for Reo Group. Chloe has over 15 years experience in observing and shaping workplace design to craft a culture workers can thrive in. Together with her partner, she is also co-owner of One More Chocolates.
Where did we find Chloe? Who found Chloe? Okay, so Chloe, you're a country girl. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey into the city and stuff?
Yeah.
I'm sure that would be interesting.
Yeah. So I actually see my upbringing in a country town as like my foundation of everything culture and
Absolutely.
understanding how in small environments or communities, how culture can impact people's behaviour and how you change yourself to fit in or identify very quickly if you don't fit in when culture is quite specific and, especially if there's a monolithic culture, which is in a village or a country town, usually what will happen.
You expect that, yeah.
So I grew up pretty far away from anything and I didn't get a computer or the internet until I was 14. Mm-hmm. So at that time, there wasn't much to know about the rest of the world except was what was right in front of me. So I think what happened was I realised pretty quickly that I was one of the people that didn't fit in and it wasn't something that I wanted forever. Of course my mum might bring me to Sydney and I'd see the pace and I thought, that rush is for me. Like I love the busyness. I love to see people moving and coming and going. So I actually did something pretty unique. I went to the only local public school in town. And I turned to my mum at age 16 and I said to her, I cannot continue school here because if I do, I have to do the subjects like agriculture, which I am not interested in. So and cool. I'm going to fail anyway. So what's the point?
Yeah.
And I want to go to performing arts school. And I said to her, look, I either move away and do my year 11 and 12 or I don't know what I'm going to do. What am I going to do, Mum? How can I do anything here? There's no jobs unless I want to be a checkout chick, which when I was 7 years old, that was the best job I could imagine. Yeah. Right? So off I went alone.
But a real credit to your mum to listen and let you do that. It's fantastic.
Yeah, it's actually mind-blowing. Now as a mother myself, I can't fathom how she allowed it. But I think inherently, mothers know their children and she just went, she's going to do it. She felt it. She's going to do whatever and she's actually going to be okay because I was pretty determined to get what I wanted.
So what, you shared in here in Sydney somewhere with some students or whatever? Well,
I went to Newcastle, which we joke is the gateway city for someone trying to go bigger. And
for Mudgee, it is a bit of a hike.
Yeah, it's about 4 hours. And, I shared with another girl in grade 12 and we did our last 2 years of high school kind of pretending we were uni students but not actually being uni students.
I know, I was going to say. That's really quite young. That's amazing.
Yes, it's
that would have taught you a few things.
And
independence
absolutely. Independence, also, that drive to rely on yourself and, everything stops and starts with you and the decisions you make in that moment.
Very nicely said.
Yes. So I think from there, what I actually realised and learnt was I don't want to be an actress. And this is probably my first, front-facing gig since then. But I knew very quickly what you need to be independent and that was to make money.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
So the whole idea of being a struggling student didn't really appeal to me at the time. And also because I was not really academic, I was like, university is probably going to waste my time. I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I thought, well, what career could I pick out of the sky? And I knew that I wanted to travel the world. Mm-hmm. So I picked the travel industry.
Yeah.
Naturally.
That makes sense. Especially
sense.
for an 18-year-old, that logic makes sense.
It seems to make sense, right?
Yeah.
So I knew I didn't really want to work in retail at the time, and I had another friend that worked in corporate travel, so I thought I'll go down that route. And that's pretty much how I've built my career.
Oh, wow.
From there on.
How many years roughly in that industry?
So I did about 5 years in corporate travel.
That's solid, yeah.
And, that actually takes me to 18 years of corporate experience now in the workplace. I think it built such a foundation for me to observe, how certain sizes of business and types of business, approach processes and operating procedures, et cetera. But also what they didn't do along the way. I was very, very observant. And all of those early lessons that might have felt painful at the time, or I might have had to have some resilience through, really create that foundation for me to understand, well, what does good look like in leadership, and what am I wanting to avoid in myself if I have a team one day or want to grow something?
Yeah.
So there's a few things I did really early on, and one was volunteer every time there was something new or changing.
Okay.
And I think anyone that wants to build a career in corporate without any, necessary pathways to entry, attitude will win every time.
Yes.
Attitude will win. There's no question in my mind. If you absolutely are invested in the company, and I've had several bosses joke to me that I'm not an entrepreneur, I'm an intrapreneur.
Explain what he means by that. What's intrapreneur?
So an entrepreneur is building, businesses.
Sure.
An intrapreneur treats businesses as though their own, as though they are their own. And, entrepreneurs are known to hustle, but it's that ownership mentality that if I'm doing this task in this job, I'm going to own it, and I'm actually going to commit to it and have the passion.
Interesting.
In that way. So for me, that's just inherently the way I am. Unfortunately, sometimes that my passion, I can't divorce from it sometimes.
So you spent about 5 years in the travel industry.
Yeah.
And you were talking about how one of your bosses said to you, you're not an entrepreneur, but you're an intrapreneur because of the way you described it, the way you own tasks and responsibilities, and you have that sense of ownership and commitment to your work.
Yeah.
Is that what you were saying? And
totally. And the broader picture, understanding that everything you do in any company is all about the broader result,
What does it mean?
The shared purpose.
Okay.
That we are all there for a shared purpose.
Got it. You're a piece in the puzzle.
Yes.
Everybody relies on you, but you're on other people.
That's right.
That's very interesting.
Yes. So even if your job is not necessarily with the customer, in product companies, the end result is the customer. Everything you do should be connected to that end result of that customer purchase and your mindset. So I think I didn't really learn this until I kind of got my first step away from the travel industry and into probably a career-defining job that I had, and I walked into not really understanding the impact of what that would do for my career. But I got headhunted by a tech startup, and at the time I hadn't explored outside of the travel industry. It was a hotel technology startup, and I had relevant skills for the industry, so I knew what I was being hired to do. But outside of that, I didn't know what a tech startup was going to look like. But I identified something very quickly with them, is that they were, at the time, which was quite some time ago now, back in about 2012, they were bringing a culture of working to Australia that I'd never experienced before. And this was more of a, pushing leadership down a bit, very flat structure and a high accountability in each role.
Interesting. Yeah.
You know, they've gone on to be one of Australia's probably most successful tech startup stories since. But in the span of 3 years in that role, I onboarded 200 people into the company. And, you know, I learned so much from the CEOs there because they focus so specifically on the outcome for the customer. And for me, it was easy to sell that to potential employees or new employees.
Yeah.
So the passion was really there for what the shared higher purpose was. But also what I could sell very easily and I could easily explain to people was the type of workplace that they were wanting to create in that moment. And I had a way, I guess, of helping people adjust to that. And that was my core role. And that was my first introduction to HR. It was
That's how your first job in HR?
Yeah. So
without even HR qualifications?
No HR qualifications.
I'm really proud of you. That is so fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And the global head of L&D at the time, she actually tapped me on the shoulder to go into that role because she said, no, you got exceptional training skills, you know, you always helping people, you've got that attitude. I just think you're born for a learning and development role. Yeah. And she was right. At the time I thought it was a bit strange because I was quite young and, you know, I was just happy to be there. But you know, she definitely saw something in me. And still to this day, if I don't, you know, run training sessions for a while, I kind of get a bit itchy. You know, it's like it's my trade. It's what I love to do the most. I love to help people. I love to help them grow. And particularly in a training session.
We don't take training seriously enough in this company. I definitely think we could do more in training. I'm telling you the truth.
I think a lot of people, I guess for me, my passion comes from I'm not the best learner. I was never the best learner. I'm, you know, as I said, I'm not very academic, but I'm clever. I'm very intelligent in lots of ways. And through practical learning, I've been able to build a very successful career. So I pay homage to that, and that's all happened in the workplace. So, you know, it can give people like heaps of opportunity if you can invest into them and help them grow because they'll put that back into your business. Yeah.
The reason we've been able to get away with it because we're still smaller. Our passion to help people, we're doing it ourselves, but we don't have anything formal for training.
Yes.
That's, I guess, what I mean. But, you know, clearly as we're growing right now, and we are, that's going to become important. So I think, you know, I've learned something from you here. It's something I need to start to think about.
It doesn't have to be anything magical or big. I think starting small is the goal. But actually, you know, my where I started in Reo Group, so I got headhunted by an ex-colleague to join Reo Group, which is where I'm at now, which is a recruitment agency. At the time, the call sounded very, very strange in terms of we're a recruitment agency and we want to essentially build a learning function. And then I asked the next question, which is how many staff do you have and how big is the company? Oh, you know, about 10 people. And
I would be personally very surprised. I would be saying you're too small to have a dedicated learning function, right?
That's right. That's right.
I'm intrigued now to see the logic behind that.
And Stella and Marcelo, who are the co-CEOs of Reo Group and entrepreneurs that have built the business across the past 15 years. I thought I'd go and meet them and learn about them because, you know, a friend had recommended me and I wasn't looking. So why not go and meet them? But herein lies what's special is I knew at that time I'd seen enough in my career to understand certain leaders and what they believe in and how authentic that is. I knew that Stella and Marcelo were building something pretty exceptional in what they were doing, and that they truly believe that the mission of their business and the core of their business is to enable their own people to grow and thrive no matter what they're doing or what product they're selling.
Yeah.
So
I mean, that is true. I would 100% agree with that.
Exactly.
It sounds so naive, but not many people approach it like that.
Yes.
What I mean by naive, I'm sorry, I mean so obvious.
Yes.
But yeah, it's insightful the way you said it.
Yeah. And I thought, how strange and interesting, and you've only got 10 people, and what am I going to do? I mean, the truth of the matter is they wanted to grow, and recruitment is a career which I wish I knew about when I was young, because I don't know, I might have a bit more money under my belt, because it has extremely high earning potential as a career and a job, but also it doesn't really have barriers to entry. You don't need a HR degree to be a recruitment professional.
So you're saying highly competitive because of that?
Yeah.
So we mean by low barrier to entry?
Low barrier to entry as in, well, you don't need a HR degree to be good at recruitment. You don't need to have prior experience. Most people that have gotten into recruitment, you meet them and they'll say, "Oh, I fell into it," or "I took it as a holiday job," or know, and then they realize the earning potential or the what the job really is. And I think for graduates, it's an exceptional foundation role.
Sure, but not everybody can succeed at recruitment. It is
that's
tough.
Right. It's a very hard job to do. It's a very hard job to do.
So what's the point you're making there? Is
that, well, you need someone that can enable those people with no skills or knowledge to succeed quickly.
So hence the learning for them. They want to get talented people, raw talent, without any experience, and make them superstars.
That's right.
I love that.
That's right. So I just knew these were my people. And
I absolutely agree with you. This is really phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Aside from the size at the moment, I knew 100% that I was in as an entrepreneur, that I backed this business, that they were going to achieve their goals no matter what, because at the core of everything they did, it was from the right place. And I thought, well, who wouldn't want to be in charge of the talent experience frameworks of that company? My mind is going a million miles an hour.
You've changed me forever. You've just, I don't know what I'm going to say. For better or worse, you really, really taught me something very important. I'm gonna probably all night not sleep thinking about what you just said. That learning as a base, as an important foundation to make people succeed. And I guess what you're saying as well, it becomes a strategic tool, because you can now, when you have that foundation, thanks to yourself and that company, you built that foundation, that learning platform, that you can plug people in it and they come out there on the other end successful.
That's right.
Once you build that means if I meet someone really talented, I can have trust that I can make them succeed.
That's right.
That becomes a strategic tool.
That's right. That's right. And the other part of it is if you're a services company, which recruitment is a services company, if you have the vision to build a reputation as a brand.
You have to, I guess.
Yes.
Anybody. Everybody.
That's right.
Yeah. So I agree, yeah.
That's right. If you want to become famous for anything in the world, you have to be consistent. So you need standards and you need all of your people to meet those standards so that brand can become famous for what it does so well. So whether it's product delivery, you want that consistency to be across the board, because just like McDonald's puts a pickle on every cheeseburger, your product or your brand or your service needs to have that pickle. Now, who's checking that the team are putting the pickles on?
Yes.
Who's teaching them that what size the pickle needs to be?
Yes.
So
it's that system, that training system.
That's right. And Reo Group, whilst small, we are famous in quality. And that's something, again, that the co-CEOs are very passionate about, and I believe in, that, people want to do quality work and they want to get there.
At least you only want to work with those people.
That's right.
I 100% agree with you.
That's right.
It's a beautiful thing to be able to say we take pride in delivering quality work.
Yes.
What better mission to have than that?
Yeah. I think, that it's a conversation that comes up, I think, online a lot. People leave managers, et cetera, but I actually anecdotally believe that people want to perform. Mm-hmm. And for whatever reason they can't perform. Mm-hmm. There's, we can sit all day and
they
unpack it.
They want to reach that potential they think they have.
Yeah, they believe they have, and they want to feel successful.
Yes.
So I think people leave jobs when they don't feel successful.
And the training, you're saying, will give them the best chance if they have that talent, if they have that self-motivation, that determination to actually get there.
That's
to succeed.
Right. That's right. So, yeah, I think that being a foundation to my entry to this role was pretty exceptional. And obviously there was some operational things I needed to get done to get to a point where we could do more exciting and amazing things.
The way you've sold that brand is better than any marketing manager this company can ever have or any CEO in that company to sell that brand.
Yeah.
You're amazing. The way you sold it indirectly to be a beautiful place that you want to work at and an intelligent place, and that's really phenomenal. Good for you.
The reason I don't have a job in sales and I'm not going out there making lots of money in recruitment is because I can only sell the truth. And yes. I'm so authentic in where my values sit. Authenticity is major for me. That, you know, I know my influence has a lot of power and that people will listen to me, and I'm pretty strong in my leadership that I kind of say, well, I'll only use it for good. I'll only use it for good. That's that's it. And that's when I believe in something so firmly and passionately. So that's what you're seeing there, I think.
Chloe Norris, the same last name as the famous Chuck Norris. Mm-hmm. You said to me that one thing that you're passionate about, that you would love to philosophically and something you believe in, is this topic of the culture, how the culture is an equally important strategy in any business, or it should be, in other words.
Yeah, and most people don't see culture as a strategy. They see it as a byproduct.
I would agree with that. And that would be when you say probably if I was to take guess, you'd have a better educated guess. 60-70% of companies would see it as a byproduct.
Yeah.
See it.
And that it happens organically is the other, I think, misconception, is that culture just is. It is what it is. You know, it happens because of the people that are there, and that's where you land. I think, you know, companies that are serious about their performance in today's climate, where people have more choice than ever about which jobs they choose to do. You know, how many people have you know, the amount of people I meet now with a HR degree, you know, and now they have all this choice, or in a city context, they have a choice in what company they choose to go towards.
Sure.
So you're competing for that person, and you're competing for the best talent. That's why recruiters exist, right? Because people will pay for the best talent.
Yes.
So, you know, what are you going to offer, and how do you know who you're going to identify to come and build that growth with you? So I believe that culture, when left organic, it's still a culture. Good and bad, a culture is a culture. Yeah. So there can be cultures that are less appealing to me, for me to work in, but attractive to.
So I'm sorry, I've cut you off. I'm going to say something because it might be a little bit funny, which is good to bring some humour into this, but also it is actually interesting because I want you to clearly to pick it to pieces and unpack it and educate me and the audience about. A lot of people think culture is the latte sipping thing and playing beach volleyball, or not probably beach volleyball, as in indoor volleyball once a week. And I mean that's not really culture, surely. I mean, these are probably things that will add and good building blocks or whatever, and they help to build a culture. Yeah. But surely that's not cultural. Yeah. So let's define what you believe culture is.
So it's a part of culture. It's a part of the foundation of culture when you look at it from a technical standpoint. If I was building a culture strategy, you know, I'd look at these three layers. So at the top of there's a guy called Edgar Schein, and he is a social psychologist that is famous for his work at MIT in the US. And he actually defines culture very easily and very well. And I think it's a great foundation for any leader to understand if they want to incite change when it comes to culture. And he talks about mechanisms in culture, but I'll get to that after. But at the top of he has a beautiful analogy that culture is like a lily pond, and in any context. So in a country town, in a certain community group, culture is like a lily pond. And what that means is just like a lily pond, on the surface you can see things, right? So
you can see what?
You can see things like you can see maybe the lilies, the flowers, etc.
The dragonfly.
Yeah. So he refers to that as the artifacts of a culture. So what you've referred to just before about volleyball or lattes or
is what you're seeing.
Is what you're seeing. So you as the I guess observer of culture
from the outside,
will make judgments and assumptions based on what you're seeing.
Mm-hmm. How pretty that pond is or not.
That's right.
Tidy, etc.
Yeah, and we think about the physical design of workspaces in today's world, how much they've changed since I started in work, where we had cubicles and we had the walls up, and that's an artifact of culture.
Got it.
And we as the observer perceive something when we see that. And now in today's world, if we see that, we probably make a negative judgment. But when we see open plan, we are going to make assumptions based on that. But the next layer down is what we call espoused values. And espoused culture is what we say to be true. So this is marketing. This is me in my role as an advocate for the business. So what I'm telling you is our culture. What, when you interview with me, what I say is our culture. We're collaborative, we're this, we're that. I'm telling you the culture because that's what I'm saying the company believes is the culture.
Are you saying that means when we talk to people about what we do, we're authentic, we're not just selling stuff? Or I might have missed the point. I'm sorry. Can you one more time?
So the first layer is what we can see.
Yeah, got that.
The second layer is less obvious. You probably need to engage with the business to understand the second layer.
Okay.
And that second layer is usually something like branding or the story we tell you about our business or the history of our business. So like I've already told you some history about our company and you now have assumptions about the way we think and what we feel, etc.
The whole focus on training and all that.
Yeah.
I remembered it stuck in my head.
That's right. So that's the espoused values. So I'm telling you that that's what we believe.
Okay.
Now the tricky bit and the bit that it usually falls short. Most people can get the boardroom table right and the logos and they can get what's obvious to people right.
And the office design.
The ping pong table.
The floor design. And
yeah. They get their story right. They've got their branded values on the wall or their signature behaviours on the wall and that's what they're telling you.
Okay.
Now, the trickiest part is what we call the underlying assumptions because that's really at the bottom of the pond. And most people and most leaders actually need to dig to get to those underlying assumptions. So some of the best leaders I've seen in my onboarding career, which I believe is also a science, but, they will sit back in a business and they'll observe for a good period of time before they do anything, before they let their ego come to play and they try to make change, they'll just watch. They'll sit and they'll watch. And when they watch, they can understand context. And when they understand context, they can get to the root of problems and they can solve those problems better. So much around what really is happening on the floor can be entirely different to what's espoused or what the ping pong table is telling you. And the job of a strategist in people and culture is pretty simply connecting those dots to make sure that all of those underlying assumptions we have on the floor marry up with the story we're telling. And the reason usually we have a story is because the leadership team of that business believes that those are the behaviours of the people that are going to help us achieve our broader goal.
As a group.
Now, if you haven't made sure that what's going on the floor versus what you're setting out to do is happening and you don't know how to measure that and you don't know how to test to that, then you have a disconnecting culture. And Gallup's most recent report suggests that at a growing rate that people are more and more disengaged with their workplaces. So disengagement comes from a disconnect, a disconnect with what really they want or they believe or they see is happening versus what is truly,
Disconnected with their culture, did you say?
Yes.
Got it. Is there any evidence from what you know or any survey, anything about what industries are doing better in that department other than compared to other industries? Is it sort of winning and losers in terms of industries?
I don't have much data on that, to be honest.
Like IT versus something super conservative, maybe a factory or IT versus a private school, which is it's got such a huge tradition, old tradition, and fairly conservative, you would think.
I think the thing is, in my opinion, there's no right or wrong in culture because there's culture for everyone and specific cultures will fit specific people's strengths.
No, you're right. Absolutely. Thank you for the correction. I appreciate that. You're right. I guess maybe I should be saying what industries investing maybe more aware that this is such a strategic, which is the debate that's going to start soon. The fact that it is an important strategy, is there any evidence who's started to see it like that more and investing into that direction?
I'm so lucky I work for a small business.
Yeah.
Because there's way more power to change and there's way more voice at the table.
Yeah.
In my opinion, the companies that are succeeding and meeting their milestones and meeting their strategic objectives are the ones with the right culture.
Got it.
Whatever that means, whatever our judgment could be at the time.
Yeah.
So Gerhard Voster, he was the chief strategy officer at Deloitte when they transformed Deloitte into one of the low-performing Big Fours into one of the highest-performing Big Fours.
Do you know that happened what year or around what years?
I don't know the date, sorry.
Sure.
But
in the last maybe 20, 30 years.
We reference his work a lot in our strategy because, he will teach you that an exceptional strategy will not only look at the sales results or the financials you need to achieve what you're going.
Sure.
Well, but also what is the behaviours of the people that are going to get us there?
Yeah.
So the companies that I believe will succeed the most in culture are the ones that are very specific and decided about what culture is going to achieve the result. And that changes over a company's lifespan.
Sure.
Sure.
Yeah. The development phases of where the company's at. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And that's why you see people like a whole, leadership team get made redundant and start afresh because they realize that those same people might not have the right behaviors that are going to get there.
Yeah.
So you need to design it and you need to be specific, and that should be done by the leadership team because, they're the ones gunning for the goals.
Be specific, because I can see what you mean, because you said before, in the sense you're saying people think that's how it is. Mm-hmm. That's the people, that's the company, that's the culture. You're saying, no, you can design it. You can. Is that what you really mean?
That's right. And if you think in a sales culture, right, you have a few options with how you drive sales.
Yeah.
And sales are famous for being a specific type of environment. We've all seen what's that movie with Leonardo DiCaprio with the pen and the ball pen, and they're all in the,
the investor guy.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm trying to remember.
That's a very stereotypical type of culture, right?
Sure.
Now,
play hard and
sure.
and party hard.
And there's plenty of those companies in Australia.
Work hard, play hard. Sorry, I meant to say
But, for example, for Reo Group, we know that person that enjoys that environment is also not going to be the one that wants to spend their time in leadership development, in self-mastery.
Mm-hmm.
Usually they're not the same person. So when we decide the type of people that are going to be there on the team to help us succeed, we can then start engineering our people and culture frameworks to shape that outcome. And this comes across the whole talent life cycle that you have in your business from the get-go, from hiring. And you should be testing each and every one of those individuals against your cultural markers because once you do that, you can integrate them easier into the business.
Yep.
They'll more quickly scale into the team because they'll find it easier.
Yeah.
And then in turn, they speak your language. You know, they speak your language. They understand what you're there to do. And as long as you take the time to get that right through good assessment of the person, usually the rest is pretty easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So there's some cynical people out there that are that have been listening to you so far, and they're still saying, you know, why culture is important, or why is it strategic? Why, if me and my shareholders and the company, we want to get from here to there, I don't believe I need to worry about the culture. I think we can get here, and that's the key thing. I get paid to deliver on that. I'm only being cynical. Clearly, I don't necessarily believe in that at all. But you know, so what would you say? Why, if you can summarize it for us, why culture is a very critical strategy for success?
Because it helps you attract the right people to your business, which is a competitive market in this day's world. It helps you keep them. And every time you onboard someone, you lose money. So
oh my God.
It's an investment.
How can you say we want to bring this person to see if there's a cultural fit if you don't even know what your bloody culture is? If you haven't designed it, as you said, and everybody's on the same page to understand that is our culture. Yeah. How can you then say we're doing a culture fit? And it just sounds so obvious now, but yeah.
HR
attract the right people,
exists to prevent loss of money, right? Because people cost money. So
to come and go, it's a huge waste of money and energy.
Yeah. So engagement is an obvious play because you've got to keep your people on board to get the result. And if you've got a leaky boat, if you're just bringing them on and they keep losing, if your retention rate is low, you're losing money very quickly.
Where did we find Chloe? Who found Chloe? I'm really sorry, Chloe. I know it sounds funny, but you're amazing. Just you're explaining all these things to me, and I hope anybody in the audience agrees with me in such a simple way. I feel silly every time I learn something from you.
Because simple is good, right?
Yeah. I feel like, why didn't I know that? Do you know what I mean?
I built a career of simplifying. So that's, that helps.
I really appreciate you. Yeah.
So I think
you got to design it. You got to be specific and design that culture. If anything, I'm going to even say, please correct me, for better or worse. It's better that you design it, even if you don't think it's perfect. Better that you have designed something, being specific, so you can start to have some kind of orientation about, hiring the right people, and then, I mean, I guess because you can fine tune it as you go.
Yes.
Would you agree? Can you talk to that a little bit? I mean, how does that start, and how difficult, or, It's very difficult. And it's actually very technical. And this is where, you kind of go, where do we find you? The reason, I would say I'm not known, or compared to, say, my CEO, who is definitely the face of our business, and the genius behind, pretty much everything we've achieved at Reo Group, is because I see myself more as an engineer in the boiler house, pulling all the levers that you need to pull to get the result that you want. Okay. So, or the architect, you could put another analogy there. So Edgar Schein's model, he implies that in order to build a culture, you can use mechanisms that build that culture. So just like a boiler house, you've got to turn this knob up here, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and you can influence change. So there's a bit of a science to it. It's not too much airy-fairy stuff.
Yeah, it's not airy-fairy.
It can be fairly logical.
It is really logical, actually. And when you think about it, you're going to go, oh, okay, that seems obvious now.
Yeah. Certainly a lot of brilliant CEOs and leaders, why they struggling maybe with the culture, because it does sound airy-fairy. It sounds like a bunch of council culture sitting on on Twitter, criticizing and telling the world what they think the world should be and stuff. And they go, what would you know about my world? What would you know about my goals? Totally. What would you know about my shareholders and my stakeholders and my clients and my employees? And, so it's really, really refreshing for you to say it is a logic thing. If you're a logical CEO and even scientific background kind of CEO, this is also another science. Yes. You can define it. You can make it work.
Yeah. The first 6 mechanisms So the first and most, I guess, powerful mechanisms to a culture is around leadership and leading others. The number one mechanism that defines a culture is what leaders respond to, pay attention to, address, and therefore...
Meaning what they should be doing, where their main responsibility should be?
That's right. But what should they be doing?
Yeah.
Should they be looking to check if they're a minute late on the clock? Should they be embracing a culture of flexibility? Should they be... And that's where the leadership team, the CEO, needs to be in the driver's seat. What are the behaviours that we want to promote in the workplace?
Role modelling.
Role modelling is a major mechanism. So you can have a leader paying attention to others, time in, time out. You did this, you didn't do this, you et cetera, giving great feedback. They could be exceptional at feedback. But if in their own driver's seat, they're not a role model, they don't have the self-leadership in their capability to be able to role model. And role modelling is, a whole different ballgame.
Yeah.
We see time and time again, people will leave that leader. You might be great at feedback. You might be technically amazing at your job, but hey, why do as I say, not as I do, Is that going to fly?
Not great.
Not great.
Not great at all. Yep.
Some workplaces want a command and control environment, and in some workplaces, command and control probably works, you think about an aeroplane, there has to be someone making decisions at the top. We're not, all workplaces require different behaviours to get the result. So those first 6 mechanisms are all around how we lead our people and how your leadership team behaves. The second 6 mechanisms are actually structure. They're around, what I say is the not exciting bit of my job, but the bit of my job that most people don't know about or don't understand happens from a design point of view.
Okay.
So, everything from job descriptions is a mechanism in your culture.
It's the structure. So you know what your responsibilities are, what the boundaries are and
that's right.
duties and all that. Yeah, I like that. That's structure. I agree with that.
The stories we tell are a mechanism in our culture. So, I could easily sit here for an hour with you and convince you to come work for my company because my stories have so much conviction in what I tell you about the history of our business and what we've done that I know the right people will engage with my story. The things like leadership behaviours. How do you measure your leaders? This is structural things, but also the org tree is a mechanism of culture.
Org chart?
Org chart, how the hierarchy operates.
Yeah, you're right. Structure, yeah.
How do you
job
listen to your people? Even their job titles are a mechanism of culture.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
So that's the art form of people and culture, and the role of people and culture is that our job is to make sure that we have in check all of the mechanisms that build a culture and that the culture we are building is in line with the strategy of the goals of the business.
Okay. Can I repeat what I thought I understood? Because that is a huge takeaway for people listening. The leadership stuff, it's like almost you split them into 2 categories, something about the leadership, responsibilities, behaviours, etc. And the rest is sort of you put them under an umbrella of structure. And examples of that is to define thoughtful job descriptions and job titles and org charts.
Onboarding processes, operating rhythms, rituals. How do you celebrate? They sound like just something people do in a business. But, I'll give you an example of one at Reo Group that we have. So we have a Monday morning meeting, which you'll hear and you'll be like, no, what's revolutionary about that, right? A normal sales culture will talk about how many accounts they won last week, blah, 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 numbers, etc. And that's a culture. And they'll focus on just the results in that business.
Could well be.
Yeah. We have decided that we have a culture of growth mindset, which means reflecting on our learnings in failure. We have decided that we celebrate each other and we give gratitude to the actions of our peers, and that we can celebrate our own wins and share our wins without ego or without fear that someone might judge us. And we have a 35-person Teams call, and you wouldn't even believe how amazingly smooth it goes.
30 minutes every Monday morning.
Yeah, and we share gratitudes, wins and learnings.
The way you describe the growth mindset is really interesting. Someone could be listening and they might have thought you're talking about growth as in numbers growing, they're getting more clients and more employees and whatever. You're saying the growth is you as your own personal development as a mature adult, that you go, did I learn from that failure, that mistakes that we made last year? What did we learn from that? To celebrate it as if an opportunity for learning, to be that you're growing as an individual. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, and imagine the power if you, the CEO, share that. Share your own failings.
Speaking of role modelling.
So we have decided that a self-reflective, collaborative culture that is pretty high nurture, shows a lot of gratitude for our peers, is what we believe is going to create the result in our business.
So you're saying whatever it might be, for better or worse, that is your thing, but at least you defined it. You thought about it, you designed it, you cemented it.
Yeah, and that ritual every Monday is one of our mechanisms that help our culture to be real. Now, someone that doesn't enjoy that.
Structure.
That's structure.
That's an example of that structure.
It sounds airy-fairy, but it's a structure. It's actually a structure. And, you know, I think it sounds so silly, but
it doesn't.
It doesn't
to me at all.
It's a mechanism.
30 minutes in a week to talk about that, not too much time.
Yeah.
I think it's very well invested. I very much appreciate it.
Yeah. So we have a choice there. We chose to not show our team the leaderboard, which we don't in our business, or focus on what they did in their last week that contributed to the broader outcome. And we, you know,
Let me explain to the audience what you just said. In a recruitment agency, 99, it's a guess, but my professional guess, 99.9% of every business, they would have a whiteboard on the wall showing where everybody is at in their sales for that month or a quarter.
That's right.
And you're saying you chose not to make that visible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Can you talk to that and why you believe in it?
Because we have decided that the culture that is going to get us there is based on the behaviour of unity and not competition internally.
So you're going against the grain big time here, but you know I like you and I trust you, so they want to learn. You're saying it's almost a common understanding in sales competition is healthy, and hence the whiteboard in a recruitment business showing the cues for that team, 4 or 5 people, where it's like literally a race. Horses racing.
That's right.
Which is really, when you think about it right now, it's disgusting. But anyway,
Well, what happens in those environments?
Because, you know, they look like lions. They look like the horses, you know, coming out of the thing. So you're saying, you're going against the grains. You're saying, yes, you can build a highly competitive sales team competitive against the outside world, meaning business can be competitive without creating that internal competition in a vulgar way like that.
And usually the result or the pattern we see is toxic environments in that space. And I mean, again, some people might be able to manage that from a talent engagement perception, and there's certain people that will want to remain in that environment because they're highly competitive. But, you know, I think it doesn't mean we're not competitive. We are fiercely competitive, but we're competitive in the power of the business.
Yes.
United And is there anything more strong than a united team?
How do you do that? So let's drill into this a little bit. I happen to know a couple of things about sales, as you know. And what's the argument here? We would, for someone to go and research, what is the argument? What's the kind of philosophical camps here? The healthy, so to speak, healthy competition within the salespeople is pretty good. That's how they sell it. We do the same.
Yes.
Versus you're saying, hold on, unity could create even potentially better results.
Yes.
Without creating toxic byproducts.
In our environment, yes. Yes, I believe that.
Can you explain why?
So it doesn't mean that we don't value excellence.
Absolutely. No one's for a minute.
But this is what people think they're trading off. That's why there's a fear around it. Because if we don't get those horses to perform at their absolute best in their lane, we're going to lose money. Mm-hmm. That's the goal of every business, right?
Sure.
So every salesperson is there with a carrot, right? So, but everyone's carrot is different.
That nuance-based management, and that's true, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Someone might want a yacht.
Yeah.
Go buy your yacht.
Yes.
Okay. Someone might actually just want to have a career that they enjoy.
Different motivation.
Exactly.
Sure.
So
just acknowledgement and recognition to some people could be the biggest driver.
That's right.
I happen to be working with an organisational psychologist. Apparently, I value being acknowledged, especially because you're at the top. No one normally gives you a hug.
That's right.
Unless I talk to one of my board directors, maybe every 3-6 months he gives me a hug.
That's right.
So apparently I value that a lot. That drives me a lot. So, yeah, I agree with you.
And you can actually assess that in people.
Assess?
Their strengths and what, usually motivates those strengths.
But, yeah, absolutely. But I'm acknowledging your point. It's everybody can agree with you. People have got different reason for motivations. So I agree with you. Let's keep going. So what does that mean?
So in a sales role, you meet your financial targets, you're going to get commission, right? That's pretty, it depends on your structure. But in ours, the higher the performance, the higher earning potential.
Sure.
Yep. So that person's sorted, right? Financially driven. We celebrate wins, but instead of putting them in a competitive landscape, we show the gratitude for the win. So if I said, Anwar, last week when you won that new account, you did an exceptional job and I see the hard work you put in. Mm-hmm. And in fact, people can't see that you were up working until 9 o'clock at night, each night that week until you got that result. And the determination was the thing that I observed in you that was the defining factor of that result. I'm not just sharing unity there. I'm actually seeing you as the individual contributor. The other thing about a sales environment that I've observed over time is there's ebbs and flows, right?
Sure.
And depending on that person's life and in recruitment, depending on the market condition in a lot of situations.
So many factors, I agree.
So many factors change their experience of that week, month, quarter, year, right?
Agree.
So if in that moment we go, all that matters is the leaderboard and that you're not at the top, instead of saying, hey, mate, let's get back to it. Let's get on the road again.
So that leaderboard is reflecting his ebbs and flows, and that could create a lot of anxiety. And unnecessary.
High anxiety, high stress. And then what happens, you've heard the 10-pin bowling analogy about positive psychology, right?
No, sorry, share please.
So they talk about this in positive psychology a lot, is like you go 10-pin bowling and if you're going in saying, I can't, I'm terrible at 10-pin bowling, I'm going to miss it, blah, 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 then increases your chances of missing it.
I think I agree with that from my own experiences. Yeah.
I'm terrible at 10-pin bowling, by the way.
No. In general, even that's funny, by the way. But in general, in many situations, whether it's me or observing other people, I think I agree with you. Yeah.
Yeah. So, they know this to be true. So positive psychology changes outcomes, and if you can maintain, vision on the goal. And vision on the purpose and vision on the outcome in a positive way, as opposed to pushing that person down further, you're going to get better results. There's no question in my mind.
So basically that board is showing the ebbs and the flows, and therefore showing some negatives and stuff instead of just keep the positive and keep the conversations and keep the growth mindset and the learning from mistakes and every week and continue to focus on
and
unity.
That's the culture we've decided on, and I think that's the really important part here. I definitely don't want to say I don't believe that a leaderboard isn't a mechanism. It's absolutely a mechanism of culture,
sure.
But a specific culture that certain people are attracted to or not attracted to. And we know it in our organisation that we're attracted to people that have an exceptionally high standard of self-mastery and leadership in themselves, are focused on their own career journey and their own success as opposed to, winning through comparison to their peers.
Can I say something? Please critically correct me because you're the expert. I'm not here and I don't want to be speaking for you. Can I interpret one little angle from what you said, just one thing, summarising what you said, that, at least for you, and therefore you'd recommend companies would do, at least you went out there, thought about it, you debated it, and you decided this is the culture, for better or worse. What you're doing in that meeting and what you're doing without having that thing working for you, you're not saying go and do it. At least one takeaway is you created what you called that rhythm, created that culture by things happening. People expect things to happen in a certain way. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And when you're hiring people, you're hiring people that you believe will work within that rhythm.
Yeah. And everything in the architecture needs to match the behaviours you want. How you reward them financially.
I'm sorry?
Of the culture. So everything in the whole picture needs to match what you're doing.
Sure.
How the commissions are incentivized. Well, are you incentivizing financially for them to collaborate? Because if you're not, it's not going to happen.
Yeah. But the point I'm saying, and I trust you're doing a phenomenal job at Reo with what your architecture, and I'm trust as people would expect, that's being refined all the time and you guys continue to fine tune it anyway. Yes. But the takeaway that I would like you to confirm is at least you've had a go and you created a sense of culture and stability, and there's, people on the same page. We feel as a group right now in our business in 2025, that's the right architecture for the culture for us.
That's right.
At least you've done that, and that's the one recommendation you would do, regardless of the details of what works for a particular company in a certain industry, in a certain legal jurisdiction, a certain part of the world that would be different.
Yeah. You have to decide what is going to be the culture that's going to get you the result.
And now we are starting this conversation. I'm telling the truth. And I've got, we're a successful startup. We're an awesome company and I've got nothing to hide. Therefore, I always share on the podcast what's going on. We've never hired an HR person before and we still haven't done, got 3 HR people, but they're not working in HR capacity. Yeah. They're embedded within the sales team or the product team, etc.
Yes.
So we don't have an HR person.
Yeah.
My EA, the awesome Blair that you met and briefly, so part of her motivations in professional development and what she loves to do is being part of that culture, building that culture. So that's like literally 50% of her KPIs and targets. So that is a good start. She's already making a really good positive impact. Her mindset is off the chart. Just that alone is amazing, let alone the actual architecture she started to put together. Yeah. Using your own words. So I'm taking what you're saying very seriously because we are one of those companies that aren't doing that yet. Yeah.
Who do you want to attract to your team? Who are the people that are going to make it better? What are they? What are their behaviours? What do they do in their job? And how do you promote that behaviour time in, time out again? So, you kind of joke about having a clone machine, and I bet you've said that about Blair a few times. I wish I could clone you.
Okay.
I wish I could clone you.
Sure, we all
I would like 100 of those. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, in recruitment, we'd love a clone machine. We'd make so much money.
Yeah.
Okay, right? So, you have a clone machine. It's called a good culture strategy.
So you can easily attract the right people and they succeed because you made sure that was the rules, that's the culture. There's a fit, the chances are they're going to stay.
Yeah.
Not just attracting the right people. Oh my God.
That's right.
This is amazing.
And so often we have at Reo Group an experience of a new team member just go, oh, I've never felt like this at work. Now, this is like me moving to the city. Oh, I've never felt like this in my country town where I just belong. I just fit in.
Yes.
I'm here.
Yes.
Oh, these are my people. I found my people.
Yes. Wow, that is the ultimate. If your people say that,
and they're a specific type of person. We are invincible. Yeah. I believe. I think together we can do anything if we've all got the same mindset. And, you know, culture strategy needs to change over a company's life cycle and how it's experienced.
Of course.
And the best leaders will know when to shift those gears and what that looks like based on their own personal goals and what that looks like. But
we're certainly shifting now.
Yeah.
Part of all these changes of thinking about the culture and the hiring process and all that, we're definitely making a lot of changes there. Yeah. So this is so timely. I didn't even know who you were and what you did. This is incredible. So thank you. I'm definitely learning.
You're welcome. I think, you know, it needs to be taken seriously because it really does drive the outcomes of the business. And if people are not engaged in your business, then you are going to lose out financially and be left behind. So I think people need to value and understand, and I actually have a bee in my bonnet because there's this guy on TikTok or Instagram or something that is always saying, you know, the head of people and culture, it's a redundant title. No one is in charge of people and culture and no one can change a culture unless, you know, it's the management or the leader. And I question, okay, well, there's frameworks that person needs to implement and, you know, the engineer needs to look at that.
About.
Yes.
That's a lot of work.
Yes, and that's the job.
A lot of systems, a lot of discussions, lots of, consensus. And
our job as heads of people is to support the CEOs or whoever you're reporting to in translating that vision down into the underlying assumptions of the team.
Yes.
And if I see a gap, so, you know, for example, someone walks in tomorrow and says, I want to do a leaderboard and that's what's going to get the result. And I go, well, that's a bit contradictory to our culture. So we need to understand how we're going to intertwine that appropriately so we're going to get the right outcomes. You know, you'll see the gaps in what really is happening on the floor versus what is the goal of the business and what's going to get the success. Now, in large organizations, it's very, very difficult to oversee this for heads of people. It's very, very difficult because you don't have eyes for 14,000 people, right? But that's where the investment in leadership, because they're the primary mechanisms, and how you measure leadership and how you develop your leaders to be better in themselves really, really matters, because you want them all singing to the same hymn sheet so you can get that consistency across the organisation. But I think, you know, if there's one of your listeners out there is a leader that feels a little powerless in their impact on the culture and they feel like their team might be an outlier in any situation, they have more power than they think to have changed the culture of their own team, using mechanisms in their processes, their operating rhythm within their own little ecosystem that they believe will help them achieve their, you know, department strategy or whatever it is at the time. So it's a science.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. Okay, so it's so interesting. It's so interesting. So one of the key things that we wanted to discuss, to just in case we haven't finished with that particular point.
Yes.
I mean, you can never finish with it. You can talk forever probably about it. But the statement of culture needs to be a equally important strategy for a business to succeed. Yeah. What else do you want to cover about that? How would we explain why that is? Although we have in many ways already, but what else do we want to say about that? That I mean, can we explain that? Culture, so strategies, we're talking about here in our business, for example, our strategy, I don't know, at high level could be the product, building the product.
Yeah.
What's the right product? What's the right features? What's the next feature? What's the product roadmap and the vision for the product? That could be a strategy. Is a strategy, I'm sorry. And then another obvious one would be, how do we sell it or how do we market it? So these are maybe obvious strategies for a business like ours, right? And how do we support it?
Yes.
Okay. But you're saying the culture should be an equally important strategy. So that leader, the culture leader, whether they are called head of people and culture or whatever that title is, whoever that person is, needs to sit at that table, needs to have equal respect as an executive.
Yes. Because if your goal is to, let's say in software, you have a goal that's to reduce the time it takes to resolve a bug when it comes to the product, right?
Sure.
I mean, bugs happen. It's a part of life in software. I've worked in software. I know.
Developers not going to enjoy that part of the conversation. They hate doing that. But anyway, if you think of them that they're fixing bugs, I'm joking.
That's right. So if you want to change that measure in your, you're saying that's costing me customers, for example. That might cost you customers. It would, because it's not working, et cetera, and a competitor comes in and they might capture that customer. So if you want to change the time that it takes for them to resolve it, you need to think about, okay, well, what are they doing and what aren't they doing in that moment?
Okay.
Now, for example, you might be looking at, well, they're waiting for their boss's boss for approval on something, and that's how we run hierarchically up and down.
Sure. It's not us, but let's say it is the case, yeah.
And you might say, well, that's not timely. It's not getting the problem resolved. And in fact, that creates a lack of accountability because I'm waiting on him, on him, right?
Sure.
You want to reduce that. So then in your 12-month strategy, you go, well, what is the behavior that I want to change in my team and in turn the culture around that particular problem that I have in my business? Now, a good person in people culture say, well, that is actually a structural issue because they're waiting for permission and your process actually defines that permission slip.
So that becomes an org design issue?
Yeah, it's an org design issue. But it also could be based on a historical assumption that lies in the business that's unspoken. That is that, well, when I just went and fixed it and things failed, something went wrong and I got reprimanded for that. Am I going to step into that?
Too careful now and too bureaucratic because of my fear that I'd never, ever, ever want this to happen again.
That's right.
That's brilliant.
So that's just a basic example of deciding the behavior that you want to see in your team.
So therefore,
and building a culture around that behavior that matters so much to the next step of your business.
So in this example, I'm sorry to cut you off before, I got excited. So you're saying in this example, then what you might want to do, you want to make changes to the culture, the architecture to then make it whereby we learn from our mistakes. It's not a big deal.
Yes.
We grow from our mistakes as long as you put your hand up and own it and convince us that you learned something from it.
That's right.
Then you will be equally as respected, no issue, no ramifications from that. That will hopefully speed up things. People not going to be too careful and too shy from getting things out, and we can see that production now being speeded up.
And now you've understood the difference in the hierarchy of the lily pad, because the espoused value, I can go out and I can say, we value your accountability. But if the underlying truth is that a manager reprimands their person when they give something a go, they undermine your entire culture strategy.
Yes.
So again, you've got to be like an architect. You've got to look back and you've got to go, these are all the moving parts of that behavior. And if we don't have all the pieces of the puzzle, we can't
foundation, building one thing at a time. Yeah.
So it's really interesting because whilst I agree with these social media people that leaders are the most powerful when it comes to culture because that's the truth. They own the first half of all of the mechanisms.
Mm-hmm.
There is, from the CEO's seat, you need someone to help you drive the vehicle of culture.
But I mean, even to your credit and in support of your side of the argument, even if we agreed with them, as you said, about the importance of the leader and all that, but when you say you work with that company and you build that framework for the culture, that means you're holding people accountable. Mm-hmm. That means that CEO will have to find themselves, if that framework is solid, having to role model that and play along. And it means they're not arbitrary making decisions and volatile and changing and stuff. And do you know what I mean? So of course you're important, because otherwise it's left at the mercy of that CEO and the leader how to behave on the day.
Or organic culture, right? Which people think it just happens.
Yeah.
But it can be by design. And that's the bit that I really want to make sure everyone understands, is that your culture can be in your hands. And it's all about, the behaviors that you want to see that are going to get your results, whether that's competition, whether that's unity, whether that's accountability, so we look at it as.
Did you just say accountability?
Yeah.
That's what I was I was about to ask you to confirm that we talked about the benefits of building that strong culture framework. And I would love for you to talk about the benefits of that. We already talked about it's going to help you to know who you're going to hire, meaning the cultural fit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Once you've defined that, you'll be easily able to assess. Always can get it wrong, but it's going to make it a lot more easier. Never going to be 100% safe, but and I was just going to say also it's going to make it easier to hold everybody accountable, every position. Because you're talking about structure, you're talking about job descriptions and duties and responsibilities and titles and who reports to who and the leadership behaviors and all that. That means you can now, because all that is now being advertised in a sense and clear to everyone, you can hold people accountable.
Yes.
You should have known you can't do this. Yeah. We told you.
And you should be measuring behaviors. And I think that's the other thing, is a lot of people, when they review performance, they don't have a measured approach to measuring behaviors. And that requires a good framework from an expert like me, where we can understand what and explain to the employee, well, what is unity to us? Because it's different to many people.
Yeah.
And what are the things that you would do in your day-to-day job that would display the behavior and the cultural alignment in unity, for example? And again, accountability might be different for lots of different people. So you need to be really explicit with people, with how you're measuring them as what is appropriate and what is inappropriate in your working environment and how you do things here. Now, you can imagine that I have had to shift some pretty old ingrained habits of salespeople over the years. And, people think it's impossible. To get them to come to
that meeting on Monday morning to start with.
That's right. That's right. And I think the thing here is, if you don't set it out at the outset, if you're not clear to the person you're selling to come and work for your team that this is how we do things.
From the very beginning.
You're going to have a leaky boat.
Unbelievable. It's so important. Can you please correct me on this assumption I'm going to make? Again, it's sort of interpretation in terms of what I've thought I've learned from you. Performance reviews, how did you call it? What would you describe an environment where the culture is not, there's no framework and structure for the culture? What did you call it? Arbitrary or something? How did you describe that? Organic or something?
Organic, yeah. Right. I mean, it might end up good organically, but you're leaving things up to the moon, really.
You're being very positive.
Yes.
It's a cute little word. It's positive because organic is looked at as, it's got a positive connotation. So it's good because we could be described organic at the moment. So thank you. It's like a vintage, beautiful organic wine. You know? Nothing's wrong with that.
But it can turn sour. So, that's why we have winemakers measuring and checking. And
right. Beautifully said. Okay. So even my interpretation, I would like your feedback on, even in an organic culture, you can easily get the non-behavior stuff measured well in performance reviews and catch-ups and whatever. If it's, for example, sales, all about the numbers, it's physics, it's maths, whatever, you can hold people accountable like that, but you won't be able to hold them accountable, therefore, in the context of a performance review when it comes to behavior without a proper, solid, visible, very well communicated framework for culture.
Yes. Yeah. And at Reo Group, we've even gone as far to decide that we don't have values, we have behaviours.
I really like that.
We talk to signature behaviours that make us who we are.
Can I write it down?
Yeah, by all means.
I'll quote you every time I say it. I swear to God. Signature behaviours. I really love it. I really love it.
And the fact is our values as humans, and are made along our life journey, just like the values of a company are made along the life journey of a company, based on what's worked well for us, what makes us successful, and what helps us stay alive, etc. But they're left to interpretation. Values. If I say respect to you, that's a value, but your version of respect could be entirely different of mine. What is respectful, what it means to you is a very different thing. So we don't leave much to guessing because, when we say unity, we say we are united, and we have a very clear framework that says when you do this, this is displaying unity, but when you do this, it's below the line and it's unacceptable. For example, gossip. We have a zero tolerance in gossip in our work environment.
Same here.
Yeah. So, you set that standard pretty clear. Now, should it be a shock when someone gossips and they get pulled up for it? Hopefully not. So it doesn't mean, performance management still exists in our business. Performance management still needs to happen in every business.
Yeah.
But it gives you a clearer way or
you'd be able to include it in the performance. You won't otherwise be able to have elements or a section in that performance review page or whatever pertaining to behaviour if you haven't set that framework.
That's right.
I mean, it makes it measurable, as you said.
And we can talk for weeks and weeks and years about effective feedback and all this stuff, which,
I'd love
leadership
to bring
skills.
you back and talk purely about behaviour and the difference between values and behaviours and how you set them and all that. It's such an interesting and forever changing and I mean, it's philosophical. You're always going to have two camps about topics like that,
Totally.
So
we invest heavily into our team's self-leadership. It is the
self-leadership.
Self-leadership.
How do you hold yourself accountable against those behaviours and stuff, yeah?
And self-leadership is about 80% of anyone's leadership journey. So every single person in our team learns the skills, and they are future skills around self-leadership and self-mastery. And my CEO has written a brilliant book called Stoneheart Lionheart, which talks about her journey with self-mastery and where it's gotten her as a leader, as an entrepreneur. And we believe it's the skill of the future, and it's a skill they're not teaching in schools.
And that's self-leadership. Self-leadership.
So, again, there's another science to how do you get that person to respond in that performance meeting a certain way. There's two people in that conversation and there's two roles to play. Mm-hmm. How well you take feedback and can digest and accept feedback without letting yourself have an amygdala hijack, which takes a lot of skill, by the way.
What, hijack? I'm sorry, I missed that word you said before, hijack.
Amygdala hijack.
Oh.
Fight or flight.
Yeah.
Fight, flight, freeze, Yes. And, we work on this a lot at Reo, a lot. So, again, there's all these things, these mechanisms. If you're asking people to be okay with feedback, what are you doing in your frameworks? What are you teaching them? What are you providing them? How are you enabling them to be able to, behave in a way?
Yeah. I use the word mindset probably in my own way, but what you described with the self-leadership, I would attribute in my own thing. I'm not teaching anybody anything. I find that, or at least I describe it with that awesome mindset when they have that self-leadership. Mm-hmm. they've made the decision that they are going to be on a growth journey. Mm-hmm. And that is that mindset. They've made that decision. You can see they're on that journey. They're making the effort to take that feedback and negative feedback and turn it into growth. And that is what I love. I love to work with people like that, you know, because you can't go ever wrong with that. You can always find ways. They will stuff up in a conversation. You might stuff up. You'll always find the ground, apologize and start fresh because they're focused. Right. They've got a positive mindset, a growth mindset. They're not going to be worried and affected by what conversation happened yesterday. And you'll feel it that they've moved on. You feel it they're not interested in that. They transcend all that rubbish. They're beyond all that. I love these people.
Yes.
You know?
Entrepreneurs need to have absolutely a level of self-leadership in many, you know, because usually big part of the journey is on your own back. And if you can't navigate that in your own mind, your mind can take charge.
If you come back, we're going to talk about the leading leaders.
Yes.
That's for me right now is an interesting challenge and something that I have to win. I think I'm doing a decent job, but certainly not there. If I was to rate myself in there now, maybe at the 5 out of 10. I think I've got some room to grow there. Love, if that's of an interest to you, we'll catch up in a few weeks' time maybe or a couple of months and we just focus it on leading leaders.
Even more, I've just thought, did I say leader to you? And then I've realised I haven't, but our leadership investment framework is called leader. And I thought, hang on a minute, I absolutely want to talk about that with you.
The first time I learned about that, the difference of leadership or the fact that there was more than one type of leadership is through an organisational psychologist. I was trying to research just like yourself before she came on the podcast, trying to see who she is and what she does and whatever. She's the founder of a consultancy firm in org psych and the services and the things that she specialises in. And I saw this 5 or 6 different types of leadership. I go, what? And you're right. It started with self-leadership, leading others, and then leading leaders. And then it kept going. Already had enough. Like, let me just get here first, you know?
Yes.
It's fascinating, right?
Yes. And it's something that not many organisations talk about again. So I feel very lucky that my CEOs are so invested. I've transformed in this role, you know, because of their belief in me and investment in our whole, you know, team and our executive team. So I think, you know, it's never easy. I think that's the last thing I'll leave you on. It's not an easy journey to shape culture. You've got to be okay to, you know, do the hard stuff. But, yeah, my main thing is make sure that you know you're deciding what it is. Yeah. Yeah, that you're deciding what is your culture.
Listen, it was an absolute pleasure to have you. You're really one of a kind.
Oh, thank you.
I really, really appreciated being with you for the last hour or so. I learned a lot and I feel almost gained a friend.
Thank you.
I would love to be able to catch up for a coffee and if you're in Sydney, let us know.
Yeah, thank you.
Actually do want to have a conversation with you about something pertaining to this.
Awesome.
So maybe we'll do it after this podcast.
Awesome.
So thank you, everyone. We'll talk again soon. I really appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.